Hola, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to Friday. It's Friday. We are excited to be here doing live FileMaker training in real time. This is not rehearsed, not practice. It's just cold stone FileMaker training. Welcome, all of you. I know we have returning people already coming back in from all around the world. We have Brazil, Netherlands, Texas, which is almost like another world, and then Florida, where they have like giant gators and hurricanes. So welcome everyone from Europe, from the Middle East. We actually have people all over the place. Welcome. So cool. Today is going to be, actually, I kind of have undersold it. Today is probably going to be one of the most favorite useful webinars, because today is Honza Day, H-O-N-Z-A, if you say it in English. Honza is the Chief Executive Officer, President of 24U. I would have him here, but it's really hard to get him from the Czechoslovakia, or the modern name of that. I kind of warned you folks the other day we're going to be talking about his stuff. This guy does performance tuning and testing like I do. In fact, he had an opportunity not too long ago, well, actually a couple of years ago, and he's redoing it now. I've been talking to him. I said, hey, can we talk about your materials? He said, yeah. He has some really great tests. In fact, a couple of things that I had not personally tested previously. So we have, basically, we're going to be reviewing his PowerPoint presentation that he delivered a couple of years ago. I guarantee this will blow your mind. It's great material. You hear me sprinkle little nuggets of knowledge out that you learn different places, and his nuggets of knowledge are really quite good, and he'll be providing updated guidance on some new things, but I really don't expect anything earth-shattering. So once again, I am welcome everyone to either YouTube or Twitch. As a reminder, we are broadcasting at 1080, which means you can set yourself to high definition, and also zoom out the screen if you want to see everything, to make it full screen. If you have like a 27-inch display or a 4K display, then you could probably make it a little bit bigger if you want. But I want to welcome everyone. Make sure that Numpty00 from the UK is here. That's Tim, although his call sign is Numpty00. So if he was a fighter pilot, you'd say Numpty00 Fox 2, right? That would be his call sign. Fox 2 from Numpty. Because no one ever says, Tim, shoot the bad guys with your fighter jet. They always call you by your call sign. So back in high school, college, they called me Slicks, because either I was super smooth or super abrasively obnoxious, which I can't imagine anyone thinking that about me. I don't know how that would be. So we got Slicks, we got Numpty, we got Echo Foxtrot Golf, we got Top Cat, meow. And so anyway, welcome everyone. We also have David from Panama, Esteban from the Dominican Republic, Mirko. Welcome everyone. So we're going to do some awesome stuff today. I guarantee this will be a very popular video. Now, if you have questions, please ask. I'm trying to take it a little bit slow so we can get your questions in. Remember, I checked a second ago, it's about a 1 and 20-second delay between when you see me here and when I'm looking at the question and answers over here. If you do happen to get commercials on Twitch, they do have a process for $1 a month. You can get past the commercials. I don't know if that's important to you. Maybe you don't care about it. It's just kind of a hassle, but that's how you take care of that. You do a basic membership or whatever you do. If you pay them like $1 a month or some stupid thing like that, then you get commercial free. Anyway, so that's the idea. Oh, and Cindy from Canada. That's awesome, Cindy. Welcome. So let's dive into this. So I want to introduce to you Honza. I like Honza a lot. He's really a great guy. He has some great ideas, great feedback. This is his PowerPoint presentation from a while back. I'm going to kind of slide him over here a little bit. And so he's full screen. Once again, he would be here talking about us. He's the guy that does really great third-party integrated hardware. He connects a lot of hardware to FileMaker. He's done some really neat stuff. He does have some products out there that are available. It's always dangerous going to someone's website on live TV, because sometimes 24U, let me see, FileMaker, let's just do a search on that. And so it's 24U software, these folks here. Definitely feel free to come check them out. They do lots of neat stuff. They're a very talented group. And once again, they're over there. They've done built a handful of hardware add-on widgets and things like that. I did bother him to make sure I wanted a widget so I could put a punch keypad in on a door and have it unlock the door. He has all these things. It connects to cows, connects to trucks, connects to all this stuff. The most dumbest thing on the planet, a door unlocker, like a deadbolt unlocker through that. He doesn't have that. So I told him that, he needed that. So, because he builds all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. I want to unlock our office door. Something super practical, right? I don't need to hook it to a cow. Oh, right, moo, right? But no, we can't do that. So maybe someday we will all ask him to do a door connector so we can do door stuff. So anyway, he does great stuff. Feel free to check out, especially if you have hardware issues or you're over in the European EMEA area. So it's the Middle East and Europe, et cetera, then he'd be kind of semi-local over there for you. Over the United States, I know it's always a long flight for him to get back over here. So this is him right here. He's been around for a long time. He's really quite talented. He has a team of, I don't know how many people, 7 or 8, 10 people. At least that's my understanding. So he starts talking about the ideas of what is a fast database, what are things that you can do to make it fast. And we're going to get pretty technical today. In this presentation, he spent a lot of time talking about performance differences between versions of FileMaker. And he started at like 12 and went all the way through 16. Largely from version to version, I think is a general statement. Very rarely does FileMaker have a revolutionary performance improvement. There was a revolutionary performance improvement in 15 or 16 on opening the file because FileMaker would cache the data, and if you close FileMaker and then reopened it, it does a comparison now to see if the data hasn't changed, like layout information and structural, like what is the relationships and schema and stuff like that. And so by using the new version of FileMaker, I thought was 16, maybe it was 15, but it's in all the versions since then, is that it will speed the load time 300%. So if you're using an older version of FileMaker and you're one of these people like, I don't want to upgrade because I'm old and I'm in a wheelchair and I hate young people with new software. I do get that once in a while, right? The old grizzled geezer kind of person. My dad is one of those people, right? And kind of funny. So anyway, so you want the newest fangled FileMaker. The trick is to make sure that you have an operating system that will support it because it is generally faster. Most time from version to version, the performance goes up and down 5, 6, 8%. Maybe so, every once in a while it'll be a little slower, then it'll be a little faster. But that one release, 15 or 16, it went like 300% faster. It was a big deal. So largely the conversation today won't be about why 13 is 5% faster than 12. I don't care. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, if we're worried about 5% your performance improvement, you're doing a great job. My job is to get you, instead of 15 minutes to run a process, it takes 10 seconds or something like that. Once again, the idea is that there are technical issues that make speed, which largely the conversation today is about. Then there's also perceived performance things. So, for example, a user could perceive the performance to be slow when it's actually fast, or it could be fast if you did some things offline, like you could tell perform script on server, have it do the work for you, right? And so that's where it kind of gets into this idea. So this is pretty cool. So what's fast enough? These are really great statistics right here. And I'm going to keep an eye out for questions. There is a question here, but to help us with questions today, we have helping us is David Castillo. Are you there, David Castillo?
Yes, sir. Hey, everyone.
All right. David is in, where are you in? You in North Carolina still? Where are you at right now?
Yep, North Carolina on the East Coast.
Right on. So I am going to be doing a lot of talking today. I'm going to have my Diet Coke ready to go. And so let's just see. My first question is a fast way. Yeah, okay. So we will get to Esteban. We'll come back to that as we get closer into that section. So I said the other day that they had studies done where people would lose their train of thought after about 15 seconds. And that used to be the information from the old days. Modern days, at this point, the performance expectations are much higher. Largely, people begin to expect that whatever Amazon does or eBay does is what you will do, right? And so Amazon discovered that for every second delay, they were losing 7% in conversions. Most of the time when I interact with Amazon, it's damn near instantaneous. It's really fast. Walmart found that they gained 1% revenue for every 100 milliseconds of improvement. We're not going to really talk about milliseconds today. We covered that in another video. If we have time, we'll cover it, but it's about a 10-minute conversation. But it's the time it takes from your block of packet of information, like a paragraph of text in FileMaker, to transit from your location to the server or the other direction. But it's the transit time. So if you say it takes me an hour to drive to work, that is your latency to go to work. In the world of computers, it's measured in milliseconds. And I was having this conversation with FileMaker because FileMaker runs around and he's like, oh yeah, everything around on the internet around where he's at between office and work is like 5 or 8 milliseconds. He has really fast network there. Within town, like in the San Francisco Bay Area, under normal conditions, you will get latencies that are less than 10. So if I ping Amazon servers and I'm in the Santa Clara office, I'm in Fairfield today, then you will get a performance indication of about 9 milliseconds delay. So latency is the delay time it takes to transit the distance. 30 seconds I always thought was pretty good. That's pretty good FileMaker performance, but you need to build your solutions so they can work up to 100 milliseconds. Anything above 100 becomes kind of marginal and not really fast, and people complain about it. Below 100, you should target your solutions to work well. Below 30, I think is great myself. 24, 25, 28, 30 is great. FileMaker didn't think that was great. He only thought it was great if it was 9 or less. Now, to put it in reference, what is top performance? So I have a computer over here and a computer over here, and there's a network in here. And if I ping one computer to the other computer, depending upon the hardware I have, it will take anywhere from a half a millisecond to 1.5. So figure 1.5 on the worst case. So in an office environment, you're looking at 1 to 2 milliseconds is the top speed between you and your FileMaker server in the office if it's in the same building. If you have to go through routers to the building next door, you can add a couple milliseconds to that, right? Or 1 anyway. And so the fastest performance, well, the fastest is where it's locally on your computer and you don't share it with anyone, then that's the speed of the hard drive, right? Which is instant. If you're in the office environment, it's 1 to 2. If you're across town, maybe 9 to 10. If you're in one town over, maybe 30. If you go across the country, East Coast to West Coast United States, good speed's about 70, right? If there's an outage or everyone's trying to do Netflix at the same time or some sort of video thing or whatever, it will go down below 70, right? So just understand that. That's the cover of the milliseconds there. So we're going to move down in our presentation here. And so he talks about what he tests, what he doesn't test. I'm going to make this PowerPoint available to you, or this PDF available to you. But largely, what he's trying to test mostly is multi-user solutions on a cloud server or on a FileMaker server that's somewhere else. That's really the idea of where you want to optimize and why you want to optimize. So you make sure your code or your techniques are as fast as possible. So the slowdowns are due to the physical geography, the millisecond slowdown. Okay, so let's talk about things in general. So remember when I said, FileMaker from, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, the speeds are about the same. This chart supports that. This is 1 second right here. He's doing 10,000 exports. Now, of course, it varies from task to task, but largely you can tell that the code, whatever change they made were minor, and that the code, this thing is running within, I would say that's within 10% from the slowest to top. So once again, I don't worry about this. This is not the stuff I worry about. So we'll come down here, importing records, same kind of thing. They generally gets a little bit faster unless you're doing an import in FileMaker 18 with startup restoration on, and then it goes really slow. So that's where I put that caveat in there, but notice the versions. That's 42 or 43 seconds, and the top speed here is 35 seconds. So that's about 20, 25% faster from 12 to 16, and maybe a little bit faster in 18. Once again, this doesn't really matter so much here. I'm not sure why there's such a disparity with this one, creating lots of records with text. Clearly, when you see something like this, it's 3 times as fast from an older version to a newer version. FileMaker optimized the code. They did something in there to optimize it. Once again, if nothing else, nothing to take away from this yet. There will be takeaways. They're coming up. You're going to want to take things away. The takeaway here is to stay up to date with FileMaker. Stay up to the latest version. Just don't use startup restoration, right? So that would be my suggestion. Sorting records from all these versions, once again, pretty quick. That's probably 30% difference in spread there. That's a bigger spread. And once again, they're comparing, creating a find and doing this and doing that. Once again, I'll give you the spreadsheet. That once again, the value in here is understand that there's a general tendency for the products to get faster. So welcome, Troy, from Greenwood Lake, New York. And we got Arkansas back. We got Canada back. It's awesome. Why is it a mess? What is a mess? Not sure. As a reminder to everyone that when I see your message, it'll be out of sequence with the live broadcast. So, so if you ask a question, feel free to put some additional information in there. Put some additional information in your question. Like I had one of the folks the other day say, "What is this?" Like I'd never seen the guy talk before, and he drops in here and says, "What is this?" That's so out of context. I have, like, what is FileMaker, or what is Twitch, or what is my computer? I don't know what his question was. So I'm gonna skip this down here. I will simply say, if on the record deleting issue, is that sometimes FileMaker can't really make a process go faster, so they find another way of solving the problem. If you need to delete records, specifically if you want to delete all the records in a table, running the delete found, doing a found set of all records, then saying delete all records is very slow, especially over the network. If you want to get rid of all the records, and I say this very specifically, all, not some, but all, there's a script step called truncate, and it simply initiates an instant blowout of that table, and it's almost instantaneous. And so keep that in mind. It can be useful. Feel free to look up the truncate command if you want to delete. That's a performance tip. We don't use it that often. Most engineers, developers out there kind of don't know about it, because how often do you really go to a table and delete everything? Most people don't want to delete everything because they know it's slow, but you could use the truncate command specifically to blow out a table really rapidly. Pretty useful. I'm not going to get into base 64 too much. That's really a separate conversation. The whole conversation today is talking about client and server. I think we'll see a lot of that. But it's how you build things. And when do you use perform script on server? And the biggest thing to think about here with perform script on server, and this is really typical right here. Perform script on server is better for bigger activities or larger activities, if that makes sense. So the idea is that if you're going to set 5 fields with very simple data, you want to go set field, set field, set field, set field, commit. It's faster it's running that script on server with the PSOS perform script on server script step. Once again, if you don't know what that is, another conversation. But that's where we tell the server to do a script for us. Okay, if you're only doing 5 things and 5 data items and a commit, there's no performance uptake on that by sending it to the server. But the server is really useful if you're going to do a bulk operation like 1,000 records, or you have a bunch of really complex calculations, or you need to loop through a bunch of stuff, or maybe run a script that emails 10 people or 100 people or something like that. You can run a command, the server starts doing it, runs off. Your script can wait for the server to complete it, or it can just what we call fire and forget. It's an Air Force term or a pilot term. It's where you fire a weapon, and then you fire the weapon at the problem, whatever the problem is, and then you forget about it because you know it's going to go off and do its own thing, and you don't care what the result is. You're going to turn your aircraft and go a different direction and deal with another problem. It's called fire and forget. You can fire and forget the PSOS, where you fire it and you don't worry about what the results are. So if it errors, if it completes whatever, you don't care. There's a checkbox to turn that on and off. Or you can fire and wait, which is where you fire it, the server does some stuff. It does it much faster than you can do it, and it comes back with some sort of result, a script result, right? So PSOS has this fire and forget capability to it, which is great. Sometimes sometimes I just want it to do a couple basic text calculations, and I know the calculations won't fail. Sometimes you write code and it's highly likely it might fail. Then you write code which is pretty robust, and you know that what's the odds of a calculation not calculating, right? If the record was locked, then you couldn't set the calculation in there. But beyond that, and maybe it won't be locked, right, for whatever reason. Maybe it's a new record. So then you don't have to worry about it. So there's times for that. So telling the server to run something, you'll typically see charts like this. The server will do it way faster than you trying to do it across the wide area network. Okay, we will. I don't have a clarification from Siegfried on the why is it a mess. So I'm gonna let go of that one for the moment. So people say, well, why is the FileMaker server so much faster than the wide area network? And Honza gets into a lot of esoteric technical stuff that really most people don't care about. I guess there's a handful of really, geeky kind of people who really care. But the short version is that the server, remember, has the database. And so when the server wants to operate on the database, it's local for it. Remember, people say, oh, I like to run the database locally for two reasons. One, they don't want to buy the server. Or two, it runs faster when they run it locally. Well, the server, when it's running the file, is running it locally. So if you tell the server to do the work for you, it's going to be really fast. Okay. So this is where it really gets interesting. So we're going to talk about index versus unindexed. We're going to go through all this stuff. In fact, we're going to talk about things that normally you wouldn't talk about. And this is where the fastest, Esteban asked, my first question, what is the fastest way to perform finds and sorts with more than 1,000 records? So for a find command, you want it to be indexed. Okay? You want the fields that you're searching on to be indexed, which means this button is turned on right here. Actually, it's not on none, it's on all, right? Generally, I don't want to get difference between minimal and all. Let's just say it's none or all for our purposes for today. And we say all, okay? And this makes the finds run really fast, really, really fast. And so the difference in that, so then people say, well, but if I have a calculation, some calculations you can store, some calculations cannot be stored because they either reference a relationship or they reference a get function that changes. You have to come up with a way that those calculations are updated behind the scenes, maybe by the server in the middle of the night, or the script does some updates and then it does the find. But here's what happens in a find. When you do a find and it's indexed, largely the request goes to the server. The server does the find for you and sends you back just the data. So in an index situation, you're in a multi-user. Once again, I'm not talking about single user situations, because where people pay a consultant, they pay me, they pay a lot of money for a FileMaker platform, is when you have a collaborative team environment using the product. If you're a single person, then I don't know how much of this matters to you at all, because it's all local. But in the world of business, where it matters is a team effort, a group collaborative effort. So that's why we're talking about this way. So I'm not going to really address local files so much, although it all applies to you too, but I don't know if you would really slow it down that much locally. So you do a find for last name Carlton on a database, right? It goes to the server. The server says, oh, that field's indexed. It does it for you. Now, if the server goes, hey, he did a search for 500 on the invoice total, is that invoice total, is that field index field or a non-index? If it's non-index, it means it has to be calculated. Frequently, the server will send you back all the data through the wire to the network so you can evaluate the total of each invoice. Now that invoice is 1,281. Now that invoice is 27. That invoice is 991. And you have to evaluate each invoice, which could be thousands or millions of records, until you find every one that was 500. And so the server sending you all the data down through the network is horrible. We're talking like minutes or more of searching, real easy. And so that's why you want index. So the server says, hey, it's indexed, I'll do it for you. It does it, and it sends you back just the records that match your request. So that is why that would go. Yeah, so we are not covering installations of SSL certificates on EC2 servers today. That's clearly outside the topic today. Another one's I asked about how to install FileMaker server software. Okay, I'm going to recommend that you check out the video training that we have. We cover these topics. I just because I'm on performance today, and this is going to take the entire time today to get through the performance. If you're interested in how to install FileMaker server, you're going to go to your FileMaker 18 training right here, and you can come down here to a section we have on server. and where we go through the installation. We also cover the SSL information. Well, this training is really inexpensive. Most of you who are here have it. That's how you support the channel. If you don't have it, it's the cheapest $79 you're ever going to have spend. I recommend getting the complete bundle so you get the 18 training with everything else. But at a minimum level, there's like 70 hours of training in here. So we come down here to server section, reports, printing, custom functions, FileMaker Server, how to deploy it, how to turn it on, how to install this, how to do the SSL certificate. Here's the SSL right there, install process right here. If you want to set up an EC2 server, that's in here, AWS. That's all in here. So I recommend, since we're off topic, I'm going to refer you back to this. If you're interested in getting a discount on the training, go to the fmtraining.tv right here, fmtraining.tv, press the bundles button, and these two provide the training. This is a complete bundle, which includes FileMaker. If you don't need FileMaker and you want just the video training, the right option right here is the one you want. And if you email us at support@RC Consulting, we can give you $50 off of these. So they're $249 and $149. So send an email to support@rcconsulting.com and ask for the $50 off coupon. Okay, and we'll send that to you. Okay, so yeah, so FileMaker, is that starting point FMSP? I think he inverted that. So okay, so for the kinds of servers, so I'm going to answer this one real quick because it's not too far off in the weeds. What kind of server do you want? You want a server that'll give you the performance you need. If you're a Mac person, a Mac user, and you want a server in the office, frankly, getting a Mac Mini. I have a 2014 I have my own personal FileMaker server because I use FileMaker for everything. But I don't have more than 5 or 10 users on it. But I put a solid state drive into it. If you had a 2018 Mac Mini, this broadcast is actually coming out of a 2018 Mac Mini. That will actually probably host 40 or 50 people real easy. It's a really fast machine. You put the solid state drive into it, lots of RAM. It's really quick. So yeah, it will drive FM Starting. It's not so much the database, because FM Starting Point we designed. So FM Starting Point is our free CRM, right? That's this thing right here. If I say free CRM, it's FM Starting Point. This is designed with high performance in mind. So all the things we're covering are already built into Starting Point with indexing enabled, and everything is revolving around performance. We built it to be fast. Some of the solutions that you see on Claris's website are not optimized for speed at all, and they quit running at about 10,000 records. So it's really kind of hit and miss with their sample solutions. Some of them just don't work. So we've engineered this specifically for speed. So that answers that question. Yeah, so we've got, once again, guys, you guys are off in the weeds over here on YouTube. So we're covering performance today. I will come back to these questions if we have time. But they're asking about how to do script triggers and all sorts of stuff. So it is open Q&A. I don't mind. We'll do more open Q&A. But I need to get through the minimum content for today with the performance. So indexing is super important. You want it turned on. Now, the people ask the question. In fact, this is on the certification test. If I turn indexing on, is sorting faster? And the answer is, officially the answer in the test and everywhere on the planet is no. However, HOnza got up here with a super anally tested kind of thing and was able to determine that there is a slight difference between indexed and unindexed. And he said, and it showed that indexed was a smidge, and I mean within like 3 or 4% slower on sorting. Don't let that make a decision for you. The reason this is slower a little bit over here is because when you index a field, you make the file bigger. So what FileMaker does, say like you take the last name Carlton or the last name whatever, and you put that in there, right? You put that Carlton in there. FileMaker does some mathematical fancy stuff. I have a graphic. I'll see if we can find it. If you want to, David, do me a favor. get a hold of Miles or Henry on the Deadbird database, and there is a sort in the Deadbird database. It's called sorting. Just do a search for sort or sorting. There's an animated GIF that shows you the processes of sorting and mathematically what it looks like and how they do things. And it shows you what an index actually is. It's really cool. If you could find that animated GIF, drop it in my Dropbox. That would be really great. Go do that right now for me if you would. So.
Yep, on it.
The short version of this is that this is because the file is a little bit fatter and it's having to move that data around the file to get the bits and pieces that it needs. But strictly speaking, if you have a very, very fast hard drive, which he may have not even tested this with a SSD, in fact, it probably didn't, this is just the hard drive moving bits around. Basically, there's no speed drop off for indexing. In fact, the test question is it doesn't help you at all. Okay, perform find. Right? So once again, index versus unindexed, right? So if you're indexed, the speed's really fast. If you're unindexed, the speed is slow as dead dog. It's really horrible. And so, yeah, so there you go on that. Now, another area of performance that's really interesting. There is no, okay, for Elzo from Brazil, I think that's him. Is there a significant performance difference between doing a find for a find command, right? So if you're, let me just go to recent, let me go to starting point. If you do, oh, I crashed the file, right? There we go. So never want to see that. If you see that, throw the file away, get a new file. This is a throwaway file. So if I'm over here in contacts, if I do a Command F and I do a find for Carlton, right? Then how is that different than doing it in a script? The speed's the same. The speed's the same. They're both calling the script routine. There's no performance drop off with that, okay? If you can run calculations in a custom function, those are way faster. But as a general rule, if you run a perform script on the script or type it in manually, the speeds will be the same. Okay, so we got that one answered. Great. All right, so back over here. This is a really good one. So this has to do with how you have your relational diagram. So relational diagrams, frequently people start off, they start building it, and it gets really nasty. In fact, I can zoom in a little bit here, and you can see the level of nasty that's in here. This is, so I don't know, maybe the one question that came up earlier from Siegfried was, oh, why is, okay, so startup restoration. Okay, I'll go back, now that he clarified that. So I am looking at the, if you see me over here, I'm actually looking at questions from Leo. But so let me cover this and then I'll come back to, we'll do questions in just a second. So this is your relational design. People start off by building a file and connecting it, okay? And connecting and connecting and connecting. And you keep going, oh, I need that feature and I need that feature, I need that feature. And so you end up with a spider diagram. It's called a spider diagram, okay? I'm going to say this is a mess. And for those of you out there, you should understand without me explaining why this is a mess. That's a mess. And it gets way worse than this. It gets really horrible. The alternative is that you can take this right here and build it into this. And there are very specific rules on why is something over here and why things are over here and why is something here and things over here. And so what happens is that when you're on a layout, and the user's interacting with the layout, they're on the anchor. These are the anchors on the left. And look at the relationships the FileMaker has to calculate in its head, right? Even you just scrolling around the screen, FileMaker has to keep track of all the stuff. If you're on a layout that's over here, it's got to keep track of the whole thing at one time. Over here, if you're on this one, it only has to keep track of these three relationships and these grandchilds. So these are children, these are grandchildren over here. So look at this. It's like 10 of these things. Over here, it's way more than 10. So this is called a table occurrence group. Table occurrence group. When you're on a layout, FileMaker is only worried about its immediate table occurrence group. It doesn't care about anything else. That helps it run faster. And so over here, what is the table occurrence group? Basically, it's the whole thing minus this piece right here. This piece right here over here on the left is not connected. So there's really, it looks like, without me really digging into it, it looks like there's two table occurrence groups, and this is some sort of afterthought. If he thought about it, he or she could have probably connected it over here. So why does this matter? Why does this matter? Because you get into performance testing. Once again, I give you the link to this. He goes through how long it takes for certain parts of this thing to run, and it doesn't. All this doesn't matter. He's like, well, because what he did is he did a conversion. He did the same solution to make sure the test was valid. He took a solution that was a spider, then he converted to the anchor buoy diagram, and then he did stopwatches before and after on everything. And so this is where it gets really interesting. So if I come down here, talks more about that. Here you go. So it doesn't really matter what he's doing per se, other than he's operating the system, right? And you see, these are the two that are right here. You see the performance are taking 6 and 8 seconds respectively. The equivalent items are at least twice as fast, at least double the speed. And so what is anchor buoy? It's organized, it's logical, there are rules on how you do it, and when you come back to it after, say you haven't used FileMaker in 2 years, you come back to it, you can kind of figure out where you're at. If you could always tell what anchor you're on and what you're looking at. And so it's logical, it's more documented, it makes sense, and oh, by the way, it's about 2.5 or 3 times faster than all their techniques. Now, some of the guys in the FileMaker community, I remember Sindelar and Todd Geist being really big on selector connector, and selector connector. So basically what people do is when they're first learning the FileMaker platform, they build the spider, and then they go, oh, sucks. It's really ugly and it's slow. So then if they listen to me or a handful of other people, they will do anchor buoy, and they go, oh, this makes more sense. Then I get these senior engineers that come to me, and I remember this, having some senior engineers that work for me. They started as juniors, and 5 years later, they're just like the most amazing people, and they come to me and go, well, boss, you don't know what you're talking about, because selector connector is vastly superior because Todd Geist says so. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it is, but selector connector is a very interesting, it's basically a spider diagram with little channel thingies that you can turn on and off so you can direct traffic a certain way, is basically the short version. It's a very organized spider diagram. Well, Honza went back and tested it, and it's just as slow as a spider diagram. So it provides some interesting utility, but it's only twice as slow, right? So it's like, okay, that's really awesome. So, and so if you're a senior engineer and you want to try selector connector, go find videos on it. I don't support that because I train people. And if I was coming to a FileMaker solution and I wanted to know how it worked, coming to a FileMaker solution up here like this, I would be much easier to take this apart and understand that as opposed to this spider mess. If you want to see what we do in starting point, once again, it's File, Manage, Database, Relationships, and then you can see here that we've already set up, and we've also numbered them and organized them. And so when you're on the contact screen, all you have to do is worry about these items right here. You're worrying about these items, and every layout, like the products layout, is attached to that. If you're on projects, your layout's attached to that, and these are all your items, and they're all numbered. And so that is what an anchor buoy that's really well set up looks like. And so that is a really interesting thing, because people always say, well, you could do spiders, whatever you feel like doing. Okay, well, as long as you don't care about performance, you can do whatever you want, right? And so this gets into some other stuff, but I want to go back and take some more questions. So let's do that. So I think we're up to date on Twitch. I want to get back over. There's a lot of conversation going over here on YouTube. Let me take a look at what we have. So we answered that. There was a question about Siegfried about why is startup restoration a mess? Excuse me. I'm going to take a quick drink. David, are you there?
Yes, sir. That GIF should be in your Slack messages now.
What channel is it in? You want to tell me?
Our direct one.
Okay, so let's go to David, and let's download that and minimize that and go there. So if you've, this is really great. All right, you people are going to love this. So this is a visualization of what indexing does. Okay, and it's not just like one indexing tech. There's lots of like they have a lot of press conferences right now about the models they're using to track the COVID virus, and different models are better for certain things and more accurate. And so the same thing is in with compressing files, like a zip file. There's a certain compression mathematical formula that's gotten better over the years, right? And so this is the possible ways that you can do indexing. I don't know, I don't remember. I think FileMaker once upon a time told me which technique they did. So what I want to do is I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to, whoop, that's too much. too much. There we go. So what I want you to do is take a look. So the GIF starts off in an unorganized. I'm going to get rid of myself for a second. I'm going to bring this, I'm going to hide myself over here. Bring this over here. So move David down there. So this is the different mathematical formulas. They start off with all randomized, and they run this process. And you could, and when they get like this is how the sorting works. It's indexing works this way, but sorting works this way too. And so different mathematical formulas, they take a random group of things. Like this one right here, if you go selection, it starts at the top each time and moves its way down. See that? So watch this one. It starts at the top, and there's no smarts about it all. It's like a dumb sort. It starts at the top, and it's slowly reorganizing, right? And look how slow it is compared to the other ones, right? Okay? So then you go over here to this formula here. It's got two moving items that are, I don't know what the math is on it, but that's really impressive. So you can see how it's sorting in real time. This is a great visualization. I mean, really great visualization about how sorts work. If you're interested in this GIF, I don't even know who the hell it is. It was on a wiki or something somewhere. And so you'll hear like, oh, it's a bubble sort or this, that, or other thing. And so this is, this is actually, for some sorts, actually this one's faster, right? You watch like for nearly sorted, randomly sorted, reverse, few, unique few. The different, if you knew how your data was structured, you would tell you which mechanism to use, and maybe FileMaker uses more than one. But the point is that this is what's going on when you sort, and that's why you don't want to be doing sorts if you can help it. So what happens with a sort? I didn't really say this. I guess I should go ahead and say this. So what really happens with a sort? When you sort data, okay, in the FileMaker system, the server doesn't sort it for you. It just doesn't. The server sends all the data down to the client through the network as slow or as fast as the network is, and you sort it locally. The server does not do sorts for you, period, okay? Unless you tell PSOS to do the sort for you, it's hard to transfer the sort orders back and forth. So really, the sort can be done on the server pretty quick, and FileMaker has added the code in the product to allow us to do that, but it keeps getting shelved by management down there, and they never release it. And they go, well, it could cause the server to become too slow. I said, then it's real simple. You let the developer say, sort if the server isn't overly taxing, because if the server all it has to do is send you the data through the network, it's not trying very hard. The weakest link there is the network. It's not doing any math. But if the server is actually doing those sorts where it's going up and down doing the sort, the server is struggling to do that for you, right? And so they said, well, if 20 people all start sorting, then the server could be unresponsive. Well, then it should do it on the server, and they built it this way. This never has been turned on. They built it so the server would do it if the server was kind of free and it wasn't overloaded. And then if 100 people all tried to do that, it would default to its previous behavior of sending the sort downhill. So that would really be a deal where buying a better, faster server would have a major impact, because you could have more high-speed sorts by people. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you do a sort, the biggest trick you can have is limit your found set. So if you have 1 million records, interacting with 1 million found records or basically 50 million records becomes more of an issue when you get into millions. And you have that little slide control at the top of FileMaker, right? Right, we only have 8,000 up here. But if this was like 50 million, then grabbing the controller and going back and forth like this it wouldn't do this. It would be really horribly slow. So what you want to do is you want to, on a large solution, restrict the user's found sets. So they never are working with 1 million records or 50 million. They're working with 5 or 10 or 20,000 or something more manageable, okay? Is it quicker to create a record? This is from Ahmed. Is it quicker to create a related table using a magic key technique? I'm not going to, the problem is yeah, magic key. Actually, I don't use the magic key technique. I'd have to go back and revisit that. Is that the reverse key creation thing? I haven't seen that in about a year. That's an interesting one. I will go back and put that one on our to-do list. Dave, what we do is capture these questions out of here. Any ones that we don't answer, we'll bring back on a different day.
Yes, sir.
I think magic key is where you do the reverse blow on the relationship. You don't push the key, you suck it the other way, right? And most of the time you have a parent record, and then you have a child record, and then if you start to create the child record, it auto-populates the key. But you can reverse that process to where you force the child to get force the child to generate the primary key for you. It's kind of this backwards thing. I don't even have a video on that. It was an interesting conversation we had internally. It was not one that we had a video on. I will go back and look at that. Eddie says it's awesome. He's learned a lot. We really appreciate it. Thank you. So great. Ed says, is there a book or white paper outlines rule of anchor buoy? Yeah. It's called Videos 1130 and 1131. If you want to know more about it. See, that's the problem with people. And not you in this case. I'm thinking ahead on how I want to have a conversation with this. So anchor buoy was created by some guy who was really brilliant. And then a lot of people got on board with it. Oh, it's really brilliant. And then the problem is that you run into brilliant people, and then they decide that they get bored with it. Like I have an engineer, like my sales guy, some of you have met Ryan. Back when he had his own office back at my Santa Clara office at one point, and I would go in there, and every 3 weeks he would move the furniture around the office. I mean, I guess some of you have family members who will move the furniture. You come home and all the couches and they're all moved around. Why? Because they're bored. And so I can never tell if people get bored with the technique and they want something else because they just want some stimulation in their life. But Kevin Frank, if you do a search for Kevin Frank and anchor buoy, will come up with 2 blogs that he wrote. They're really on the propeller head side of things. And the funny thing is that Kevin Frank came out with anchor buoy, thought it was great. Then 8 years later, he decides he hates it and he does something else. And so I can't tell if he really thinks there's something else is better or he's just bored. And but nice guy. I talked to him about it, and he provides some really primogeniture and some really advanced conversation pieces in this blog. His blogs are not bad, pretty good blogs. But what we did is we took all that out and then we animated it in our training. So once again, I don't have to answer every question in the webinar. A lot of times I just have to direct you to get the answer. So if you want to read it, you go to Kevin Frank's blog, and he'll credit some other guy before that at a user group. It was hatched about 2007 is when that was hatched. Or you come over here, you can type anchor in here, A-N-C-H-O-R. I just misspelled it, A-N-C-H-O-R, hit return. And you'll see videos 1130 and 1131. And we walk through in these videos in great detail, and we animate them. So if you're over here, you're seeing us animate things, and we draw it and do all this kind of stuff. So it's very specific. And this is a terminology that came from Kevin Frank. I don't know if he invented that or whatever. A lot of times you run into FileMaker people.
From my table.
A lot of people that are really brilliant in the FileMaker world. And so, yeah, so we're talking about setting it up, but also naming conventions. We do have a document on naming conventions I could provide to you if you're interested in that. But it's in here. It's in the training. We already have it. So if you want to read about it, I'm not a prolific writer. We do write the book. We do mention it in the book, Anchor Buoy. But the videos, I think, are just faster to learn it that way unless you want to read. Yeah, so David, on the turning off the... so, another good question. David has a great question. How do you turn off startup restoration? Funny you should ask that question, because over here in the training videos... that's so funny. It's not under here. Start up. Let's try that. Start up restoration. So turning on or off startup restoration, video 1132. Starting up from a crash from a restoration, 1535. Starting up with after a crash without using startup restoration, which is the normal accepted way of doing it, video 1537. It's all covered. It's covered. We've got you covered. Except for the magic key thing. I don't know that I have that in here. We'd have to write that one down. So it's a really great conversation. You folks are keeping me on my toes. And that torpedo, the torpedo wolf, we call him torpedo wolf, has not torpedoed me yet. Siegfried, yes. Amon, yes. David Angel. Is FileMaker... okay, RAM disk. That's so funny. Okay. Yeah, we don't... I don't use RAM disks. Most of our servers are, if they're local and I'm running it, it's a Mac with a solid-state drive in it with lots of cache. So largely, because we're writing to SSDs, it's already going pretty damn fast. And so the issue, RAM disks were a big thing for those of you who don't know what a RAM disk is. So spinning hard drives are not the fastest thing in the world. If you're accessing lots of data all over the place, they can be kind of slow. Back in the old days, like literally, I can think I was using RAM disks in 97 and 98, 99 quite a bit. That's like 20 years ago plus. We would have these Macs, and they have the spinning drives that are slow, so we would buy a lot of RAM. They would load the entire database into RAM, and they would be interacting it with that way. We don't do that anymore because the solid-state drives provide close to RAM level performance. It's not exact, but it takes away a lot of the bottlenecks and inefficiencies of the disk read writes with the spinning physical drives, because the SSD drives are basically RAM chips that don't lose their, I mean, in a very loose way, I'm being very generic about this, but a solid state drive are basically RAM chips. But when you turn the power off, where RAM chips forget what they were doing, solid state drives use a different kind of chip, and they don't lose what they were doing when the power goes off. They remember. It's like basically a solid state drive is like a thumb drive, little thumb drive. It's a chip in there. When it's not plugged into the USB port from your thumb drive, it doesn't forget what it's doing. You can buy those chips at very high speed, and that's where, yeah, so we're not using a RAM disk, but that's a great question from David. I mean, if you're stuck with spinning drives, yeah, I guess you could try to wire up a RAM disk. I have not done that in 20 years. I got the magic key question there. Amazing. Ads. Talked about the book. Blog. I'm trying to get all my questions. I asked the SSL. It's in the video. Best way I can direct you. If you want answers today, is only an hour of the day. And there's 70 hours. So there's only an hour of me today, and it's almost over. There are 70 hours of me over here. With animations. The animations are great. You don't see me as much, but the animations make it, I prefer that. Questions, David, that I missed here?
No, sir. I think you covered most of them.
That's a pretty good webinar. We had a very engaged group today. So I know some people are like, well, you're pointing to your paid course. Yeah, but not everything in life can be free, folks. I mean, if you buy the training, I mean, honestly, mechanically, 70 hours in there, 1 hour here, obviously there's an issue with that, right? But it's super cheap. And so once again, our shameless plug, if you'd like to support the channel, please buy and keep your training up to date. And so the two bundles that are available, if you go to fmtraining.tv, you've got this bundle here, which is $300, includes all the training you just saw, plus more great stuff. If you want just the video training by itself, with not just this course, but all the previous courses, the 17 courses, if you want to go back those versions, plus the Go course, user interface course, and the FileMaker for Startups and Entrepreneurs course. We have a lot of courses that help guide people into say, like, should I make a vertical market product? And what are the things I have to think about if I want to sell a FileMaker product? We got a whole course just on that. So if you want all that stuff, you do buy this one here, but email support@rcconsulting.com. We'll give you a $50 coupon. Just ask for the $50 coupon in air quotes. Sorting a portal versus sorting relationship covered in video training. Yeah, the faster, it should be in there, although I would have shot the video a while back. So I think I recognize this name, Scalin 101. I remember you previously. I think you were the Lean Design course a while back, I believe. That name is familiar. So the question is, if you want to do a sort, not here. Let's say you were in over here. So say we have say we have 7 invoices over here, and you want to sort. Okay, you can sort one of two ways. You can go to layout mode. You can click on the portal. Double click it, and it'll bring up that you can provide a sort on the portal. This sort right here is slower. I don't remember the mechanics of why it is. It is somewhat slower. The other place you can do it is between the relationship from this parent up here to this child down here. So what you do is you go into File, Manage, Database. You come over here, say that we were on the, so how hard or easy, so you try this with your solution. I'm on the contact screen. I want to see the related invoices. So I come over here to my relationship graph, not a spider graph, right? Not a spider graph. This is great. I love this. Why to use Anchor Buoy? Here you go. Twice as fast, and watch what I'm about to do. I don't know where my relationship is. I know that we're on the contacts data entry screen. Well, the contacts data entry screen would be attached to the contacts anchor. Where's the contacts anchor? Scrolling. Contacts anchor, TO5. I did not know that. I'd forgotten that. Now, I need to find the relationship to invoices. So I look over here in the naming. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And I got, let me see here. So I got accounts, notes, contacts, invoices right here by ID contact. So it's this one right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it just temporarily. I'm going to move it up here so I can actually get to the box. And I'm going to double click that box right there. That's relationship. I found it that fast. You try that with your tables and your relation. Unless you're using Anchor Buoy, none of you can do what I just did, right? Unless you have it all memorized. Some of you are brilliant PhD level people, you have it memorized, but a lot of you have spider diagrams. I say go find something. You'd be there for the next 30 minutes trying to find it. That was 30 seconds. We found it. Why? Because it's organized, okay? So you come over here for the relationship. We have this connected to that, and you can apply a sort down here. So that sort right there, functionally, very, very similar to the other sort. This one here is faster. I don't know by how much. I'd have to run a stopwatch on it. The trick is here, it sorts everything through the relationship, right? And the difference is that on this one, I'm going to discard the changes. The one over here is only sorting for this portal, so it doesn't distort anything else. It only affects this portal, so a lot of times it's better just to apply it locally. And so people say, well, so I tell people don't sort the portal. And so this is the conversation. I say, don't sort the portal. They go, well, it's only a couple records. And I go, well, then if it's only a couple records, then you should be able to see the sort order yourself anyway if there's 4 or 5 records, right? So it's kind of this like chicken and egg. Like if you have so many records, if you have a lot of records, don't sort it. If you want to sort it because you don't have a lot of records, then do you still need to sort it? Because if you have 3 records, you can tell which one's which. I mean, it becomes handy at about 10 or 20. If you have 50 or 80 records, somewhere you start getting a progress bar and it spins. It's really unfortunate. So, questions? I'm happy to kind of go here for a little bit, make sure. I'm trying to buy videos. It doesn't include, does it include add-on new videos? So, if you buy the subscription, this is a subscription. You're not just buying, unless you go to Udemy. Don't go to Udemy. We totally get screwed on Udemy. And I don't know who you are. We do sell tentatively the course on Udemy for the same price. Udemy keeps almost all the money. We get boned, and then I can't help you at all. And Udemy doesn't know anything about FileMaker. So when you buy it from us, you can only buy the subscription from us. You're going to get all the content for the next year, which means that if you buy the video only bundle right here, you're going to get all the training we have now plus all the training I create in the next year, which we have a new course, a new updated content coming out. If you buy this one here, you're going to get the new FileMaker Pro that comes out in May, whatever it's going to be called, probably 19, I would guess. And you'll get all the training for the year. So this is a complete bundle. This is just the video part of that bundle. That makes sense? So yeah, you get everything. Cindy says, I'm importing database from my current database to a customized version of Starting Point with Miles. That's one of our engineers. I've omitted the container fields, but my main table is very slow. What could be having it slow down? Okay, so importing is never very fast. It depends on what you're doing. You'd have to see, I mean, when you're running an import, how much work are you actually doing? How much data you're actually doing? If you have calculation fields, when you're receiving data in and you have a lot of index, you have a lot of stored calculation fields, not unstored, but stored calculation fields. And as you import the data, those stored calculations are going to trigger. And so you could be running a lot of math in there and not even know it, right? I'm not saying that's good or bad. It just is. So you need to take a look at that. I mean, obviously, you would need to see, I mean, mechanically, if you had a really big import that was a giant pain in the rear end, I would want to probably want to automate it on a server, have the server do it for me in the middle of the night so I didn't have to do it. Now, if you're doing an import where you have to line the fields up every time because the import's a little different, then it's a manual process. I don't know what to say about that. You could theoretically import it into a local file really quick and then press a button and walk away and have it upload to the server for you. I mean, there's a couple different ways of trying to offload the work or defer the work to later. Having the server do it is always a good idea, but you have to get the file on the server and then get that set up. So I would have to see it. Obviously, you got Miles, one of our very talented engineers. I mean, I can always talk to him about it if you want him to talk to me. But, I mean, sometimes you're limited by the mechanics of FileMaker. People, sometimes to solve performance problems, you have to throw some money at it. And in my case, I actually have, for our main corporate database, we have our FileMaker server that's up on the cloud. Right next to it, I have another dedicated virtual server that is all it is, a robot. It's not on the same machine because I don't want it competing with the same memory and processor over here, but I have a FileMaker server and a robot, and they're right next to each other in Amazon's data center. And this is a copy of FileMaker Pro, and it does all sorts of work for us. Like if you sign up for this broadcast and you got an email, right? Some of you like logged in, like if you come over here and you say, hey, I want to go to this training, right? And then you say, hey, I'd like to register for the thing on Monday, right? And I say, my name is Richard, my name is Carlton, and I put my email, rick@rcconsulting.com, so I got that right, and I hit check. This is a process that talks to FileMaker Server, but then when the emails actually go out, the reminder emails that go out, those will be generated by the machine next to it. So right now, it's a little bit slow because it's doing a lot of work, and we're going to make that faster. But it creates a log entry. It does this stuff. It sets you up to get emails tomorrow. Then tomorrow, my robot, or on Monday, the robot will go, oh, yeah, it's time to send out the reminder emails. And at about 12 o'clock Pacific time, it starts sending out the reminder. So that machine does it on a schedule. I never do it on my machine. But I have to pay for that extra client to sit there. It's about $30 a month or whatever it is for that to sit there, but it frees us up by offloading a lot of work to the robot. In the old days, we would call them slave machines, but then I'm not allowed to have a slave anymore, so we call them robots because we can have robots that aren't sentient that we can turn into slaves. So I'm not allowed to say that. So some things you can say. I shot videos like, you got the slave machine, and people go, well, you can't say that. Why? Because we don't have slaves anymore. I said, I don't think about slaves like that. It's just a machine that just goes in a circle. It's a slaving process. They actually still have coding process, what they call a slave process in the world of coding. Can't use that word. So watch out for political correctness on your FileMaker installations. So good information. Esteban's great. Got a lot of information. Ramonda, buy the videos, include the other stuff. Yes, 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 yes. I will go back and look up the magic key thing. I think that is the reverse. What I used to call, instead of pushing the relationship down, you kind of suck it. You push it and then you suck it back or something. I can't remember what it was. We'll have to go find that. We had that somewhere. It's pretty neat. So it's 10 minutes after the top of the hour. We've been going now for 70 minutes. I'm starting to need more Diet Coke. As a reminder, Monday, if we can pull it all together, Monday's schedule is going to be on this web reporting. So if you're interested in web reporting, we're going to be trying to run this out. I don't know if we're going to get there or not with it. We'll have to see. This is subject to being adjusted or changed or whatever. We'll see what happens. But it's a third-party product. One of my engineers, it's not my product, it's their product. And it basically allows you to set up really inexpensive web reporting. And not just web reporting, but web data entry through a browser, not with WebDirect. It's totally different than the idea of what WebDirect is for. WebDirect is kind of like this copy of Pro. This is more like a kind of a generic web interface and allows you to make edits to data, light input of data, and also generate reports and things. It's pretty slick the way it works. So we'll see if we can get Jonathan to help us with that. That'll be very exciting. That'll be this upcoming Monday. Then we'll be covering some keyboard shortcuts with FileMaker. Another open Q&A day. Right now is really going to be a open Q&A day. And then we're going to go back to the script debugger. And then eventually we're going to be hitting the, I thought we already had the overview of the tools menu. I am wondering why that is there again. We just did that about a week and a half ago. That's wrong. I'm not sure what that one's about. We already have that event done. So we will go back and chase that. So I'm Richard Carlton. Anything last from you, David Castillo?
No, sir. Hope everyone has a great weekend, though.
Yeah, appreciate it. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself. I will be working on our FileMaker training for the next release, so I'm working every day. But some of you will be off. That's great. Enjoy a fresh movie on Netflix or something like that. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you Monday.
guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected, the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snaps a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.